Tuesday, September 3rd, an unusual day due to the holiday yesterday. So scheduled the monthly meeting today so that we can have another meeting on Monday. Would you like to take attendance?
I sure would. Ms. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Cotton.
I'm here.
Ms. Hastings.
Here?
Ms. Higgins.
Yep.
Mr. Richards.
Here.
Ms. Robinson.
Yeah.
And I am here. Ms. Boucher will be here a little later, and Ms. Walsh is absent. We still have a quorum.
Fantastic. Moving on to the approval of the agenda. Are there any questions? Anyone want to make a motion to approve the agenda as is?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone to,
Is abstaining?
Abstaining, yes.
Yeah, no worries. Listen, it's been a long
it
day.
has been a very long day.
Yeah.
None, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Any changes to this, or are we ready to make a motion to approve the consent agenda? If so, would someone would be willing to do so? So moved. Thank you, Jess. Second?
Second. Go ahead, Barb.
Barb? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Seeing none, with that is moving on too. So now we can go to our recognitions and reports, and I think we'll maybe come back to A. I don't know if we're going to have any student representatives today. Superintendent
Sports are
Murphy?
doing tryouts right now, so I can imagine. I know Van's involved in athletics. Yeah.
Right, and we do have a new student rep joining us too, so, but there's a lot going on at the high school.
There
so
is.
I don't wanna jump to conclusions, hopefully they'll get here, but if they don't, I'm sure they will next month.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we can move on to the superintendent's report.
Great, well, I want to talk about opening day. I think I kind of alluded to that a little bit in my update to you on Friday, and I thought we had a fabulous opening. I was very, very pleased. I think in the 4 years, 4 openings that I had, this was the best. Of course, you know, several of them was during the pandemic, so you can't really count that, right? And then the recovery of that, you know, it's been really challenging, but I have to say, there he is.
Still in practice gear.
Do you want to go to Van?
Would you like a minute to catch
We'll
up?
go in a minute.
We'll come back to it.
I can go now if you
We can
want
go
to.
back to the
Okay,
end.
then you can sneak out if you
Okay.
need to.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna stop this and go back to our student
great.
report. Thank you, Van.
Good evening, everyone. Here at CHS, we're getting into the groove of things with our first week of school over, going into our first almost like full week, normal week. Already getting homework, you know. But sports have already started for most teams. We have our first game this Friday in Goffstown. We've also picked our next school board rep, who will be Erin Bernardo, who's a junior this year, and she will be here next month to introduce herself. Looking forward to this month. Next Saturday is homecoming, where we will have the parade, the game, and the dance. And students will be making those final schedule changes in these coming weeks, so that everyone's schedules is finished and fully decided for the rest of the year. And thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Van.
Thanks, Van. Perfect timing.
That was quick, man.
That was.
I love it.
And back to Superintendent Murphy for the superintendent's report.
I just have one question for Van. How does it feel to be the senior?
Feels nice.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same, but yeah.
Yeah. Have
Still
you started to think about next year?
Yeah, I have. I'm not too sure yet, though.
Yeah, you have some options, I assume?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what are you playing for sports?
Right now,
Yeah.
football.
Football.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Okay. That's great. Well, it's nice to see him back, isn't it?
It is.
So as I was saying, I couldn't be more pleased with the opening. Felt that it was just perfect. I was sitting in my office at 4:30, 4:45, you know, waiting for the phone to ring, because that's what happens, right? And being ready to support whatever happens, whether it's a bus issue or whether it's a student loss. You know, we always have 1 or 2 little kindergartners that decide to get off at the wrong stop or don't, you know, don't get on the right bus, although the teachers are right there, right? The teachers are fabulous. They make sure that youngsters are on the right bus and in the right car at pickup, all the things that you think about. It was just a very smooth opening, and like I said, the teachers were there. They had open houses at the schools, so that gave everybody a chance to meet teachers. I really appreciate our staff staying with it, you know, even though they're in the middle of getting their rooms ready and doing all that preparation for the youngsters. And And then, of course, our leadership in the buildings. You know, that doesn't, I said to them, I sent an email and I said, that doesn't happen just by accident, right? It happens because you've been good, you've planned well, you know exactly what to expect, and I think it paid off in terms of a great opening. I think I sort of kidded a little bit last week when I told you we did have one bus that broke down right in the yard. And there was a red light that went on, and of course the driver immediately was alerted. They brought over another bus. And of course, I will say it was one of our members of the board's child, so wouldn't you know, right? It would be that bus. And we call that Murphy's Law.
Yes.
But
Not to assign blame or anything.
but it was a middle school run, so it's not so bad with the older kids. But anyway, it was just a fabulous opening, and we had a great 2 days of workshops. I think we'll get into that a little bit later, but we had 2 days. We opened up, teachers worked in their buildings the first day, a little bit change, because we wanted everybody to be together. Our paras come in the second day, so in order to have everybody together at Memorial Field, we held it on the second day. Again, we got lucky, the weather was gorgeous, you know, it wasn't too hot sitting in the bleachers, and we had a nice opening. I was very appreciative. Our food service had little breakfast sandwich for the teachers as they came in, a cup of coffee, so it was kind of a chance for teachers to catch up with each other and hear each other's stories from the summer. We had a great opening. Our president spoke. I offered some words, and we had some awards, which I'll get to in a minute. And just, again, I thought it went very well. Our transportation department picked teachers up at their buildings, like Broken Ground, Millbrook, Beaver Meadow. So we didn't have all those cars up at the Memorial Field, because as you know, the parking isn't always great. So Terry and his crew had buses, and teachers drove the buses over to the field, and I think they all enjoyed that a little bit. So again, a terrific opening, and I feel pretty good about it. Enrollment, I just want to ask you to go to page 46 and 47 in your packets, just so you can see the enrollment. You will always see this every month. I think you know that already. I did it myself. Just know these numbers are soft. Right? We had students who returned today, so they may have had last week as a little extension for the summer and weren't here, so we saw some new students. We also now are receiving a request from another school district. If a youngster transferred to another district, we get those letters asking a request for records. So all of those things are happening. They'll happen for the next several weeks, by the way. But we will continue to keep track of everything. We have requests, all kinds of requests for particular classes. Some homeschool students come and take a single class, especially at the high school, we see that. So we're trying to make sure that we have all that data, but your October enrollment will be the one that you will want to really take a close look at. But so far, it looks pretty good. Enrollment looks pretty good, so just wanted to bring you that to your attention. I think I mentioned transportation went really well. We have a new piece of software that Terry implemented this year. They did a great job. I met with them, went over all the bus routes, and they were able to take the old software and the old data and use the new software to do all the routes and all the pickup, and it worked out great. They have a young man that's working in the department that's very good at it, and he was magic on the computer and using the software. So we had a good sense of where the kids were, where they were being picked up, and the time, and that worked out very well. As you know, we don't post bus stops and times. We send individual letters home to families, letting them know what the bus stop would be and the time. We send that out early before school starts so that parents have a chance to call us and say, I don't think that works, or I've moved, or we get all kinds of things. They probably had 100 calls just on issues around transportation, but that was generated from the letter that went out from the transportation department, so, but that, again, that worked out very well. I asked Jack about our 3 electric buses, and they're here, but we have some work to do. As you know, we have to set up all the charging stations and do that work, and I know that Jack is working with the folks up at the Public Works to make sure that that is gonna get done in a timely way, but we know that the buses are here, and I'm sure they're being checked out by Highlander, which is the company that has the buses for us. Jack, anything else I missed on that?
Yeah, let me just clarify, they're not here? What happened? Because otherwise, they're
Well, I
just a
didn't mean
brick.
here.
They're no good to us
Yeah.
without the charging. The vendor that we'll be using for the purchase, WC Cressy, has purchased 5 buses, and they're on their way up from the Carolinas. I don't know if it's north or south, so he would have them readily available if we decide to move quicker, but the issue is trying to figure out the infrastructure pieces and the switch gear and transformers. So to say they're available is yes, so we could have them fairly quickly if we were ready to go, but we're just trying to put all the parts and pieces, and working with Jay over at the cities. Great. So we just had our presentation on Thursday of what they're looking to do. So now we got to get into the details and build a timeline. So it's probably going to take a good better of a year to get all this done, but at least we'll be in place to be able to handle more than just the 3 buses. That's the goal. Believe it or not, this grant does allow for further infrastructure. So if you get 3, you don't have to build for 3 if you have the capacity, and there's money you can build for. Say it's available for 6 or 10, they allow you to build for that infrastructure, which is good.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes, but more to come.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. I want to give you an update on staff, too. I'm sure you read in the paper, district's still struggling with staff and filling positions. It's been a challenge, for the last couple of years. But I'm happy to report there was some positions, and you're aware of them. For instance, the floater nurse, that position has been hired. And so, yeah.
We get to
And
approve.
we also had a long-term leave with one of our nurses, so that's been filled. And, the nursing positions were really difficult to fill. I'm sure that you've heard that just from the medical institutions, even at our hospital here in Concord. I mean, we're all trying to find the personnel that we need. So those 2 positions were filled. We also have a vacancy at the high school in special education. It was a really critical position, and it was a 1-year position, and we filled that. So that was a very difficult. And the last one that I thought was most challenging was the automotive position at the Career Technical Center, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's not easy to fill, and you're looking for somebody that has the technical background, but also can work with youngsters and knows all the pedagogy in terms of that. She was able to fill that position. We're in fairly good shape with tutors. We're still down on paras. And I had an item on the agenda relative to special education, and I took it off because I'm not quite ready to give you the data that you need in order to help you make that decision. So John and I talked today and decided to pull it, and I'll bring it back to you. But we are still looking for paraprofessionals. It's you think you're in good places, and then you have a resignation, and then you're filling it. So it's a lot, but she has over 20 positions still in paraprofessionals. That includes your preschool program. I know you've heard from John about the numbers of students we have. And we have some youngsters that in their individual education plans require that one-on-one. So it's in great demand. That's probably still the biggest challenge we have. But our classrooms are filled, our teachers are here, and that's huge for us. That's huge. One of the, just making sure I got all of those. Let me add a little bit more. Food service just has a couple positions up at the high school, so she's still looking. Custodian, we have 1 position opened at the high school, And we have one position here at central office, and that's the receptionist at the front desk. And so Terry is running all of the buses, so but we may be using some folks in the office to help that, so we still need a couple drivers. But we currently have the drivers, just doing jobs that they probably didn't expect that they would be doing, so they have the right license to do that, but they mostly work in the office, so, but they are helping us out. Anyway, I think we're not in bad shape. I understand that 21C will open and be ready for the youngsters. That's our federal program that we have after school support for our youngsters, and that will start on the 16th of this month. So they're hiring their staff, working with the Y, and putting all those pieces in place, and that program will start on the 16th. We just got a notice of that today, so. A couple of recognitions I thought were kind of special. Every year at our opening day, for those that you've been able to sneak away and attend, we have a student who talks about what it means to be patriotic. And they write an essay, right, every year, the Sergeant, it's called the Sergeant Award. And it was, it's actually a monetary gift too that goes with the award. Mrs. Sargent, in name of her past husband, I believe, set up this memorial. And so we have students who write, and this year our winner was Patrick Fennessy, and Patrick read his essay to the staff, and he did a great job. And I said to him before he spoke, I said, "Are you a little nervous?" He didn't seem nervous at all. You gotta love the energy of our young students. But Patrick received that award this year and read his essay for all the staff. And the other award that we give out at the annual meeting is the Bob Silver Award. Bob was a principal, assistant principal, worked at the high school and at the middle school, and then worked here at central office.
He hired me.
He hired you?
Big mistake.
I did not say that. I want to be clear.
There's a story. There's always a story.
There's always a story. But anyway, Bob's was recognized, and there's an award in his name that they give out every year. He was innovative, he was kind, caring, loved education, loved the value of our teachers, and so for a long time they've had an award in Bob's name. And this year our award went to Chris Demers.
Hey, all right.
Yeah, Chris, actually, Kim gave out the award this year since Chris and Kim work very closely. You want to share anything about that? Not that I didn't tell you about this part, did I?
No, that's okay. I didn't select him, just, even though I'm biased about how he is just such a huge help to the district. Many names were actually submitted this year for the Bob Silva, and it's a difficult decision, but the principals get together and they make the decision through the selection process and reading the essays. And there were a couple of essays that had put Chris's name forward. And he was very surprised. His wife came and she was aware that he was getting this award. And I don't know if you remember Chris, with his long legs, but he jumped over the fence to come up to the podium to receive the award, and was very surprised. Really well deserving. And one of the things that we look for in this award is somebody who impacts lots and lots of students and lots of staff. And Chris can be found in any building at any time as the assessment coordinator. And one of the essays indicated that there isn't a staff member that doesn't know who he is over the years, and that 26 years in working in Concord, and that many of the students have really fond memories of him. So it was just such an appropriate. I also knew Bob Silva and was just pleased to stand up there and to read this award. It's well deserved.
It's kind of neat too. His mom and dad were there. Yeah, what a nice surprise. And in addition to the work he's done in math and being a math coach, he also does a podcast with the high school kids. You want
I have a little story.
to?
Customer story.
Go ahead. Tell it, Chris.
So my daughter Gracie was horribly learning disabled in math. She still is. And when she was in third or fourth grade, it was when Kimball kids were at Rumford during the building.
he came to one of our special ed meetings, and we were chatting about dance, and I mentioned that Gracie danced, and I showed a video of her, and he watched it, and she did this whole tap dance. And he looked funny because she really struggled in math, and he was involved enough with the kids in the learning as the assistant principal or whatever he was doing there at that time, that he understood that how could she memorize that whole dance? I'm like, well, she's in 6 dances. And so he went to her math teacher, the special educator, and did all this stuff around dance. And Gracie memorized her math fact, the turnaround in her math performance. I know it's just one little teeny piece, but
So good.
that was an administrator that saw something and went, wait a minute, I've been involved in performing arts, let me think about this. And so she tap danced her way to 4th grade math.
And that's Chris. That just
Yeah,
about sums
that's a
it up.
great story.
That sums it up. Thanks, Barb. And so that's my more technical report, but I would like you to go to page 21 as we go to the next item in my report. And it has to do with House Bill 1014 designating holidays. And several years ago, there were holidays that you had. One of them was the Columbus Day change, from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples' Day. And in your calendar, that's how we display it. There are other holidays, for instance, President's Day, although we don't really celebrate it because we're in school, it's just, but it's called Washington's birthday. That is the federal holiday, and that's the holiday that this bill has indicated that we move back to naming the holidays the traditional names. So moving from Indigenous Peoples' Day, according to this law, and it is a law, that's why I put it in your book, that you have to change back your holiday designation from Indigenous Peoples' Day to Columbus Day, and we will also note President's Day as Washington's.
So are we gonna celebrate Lincoln's birthday again? Because the whole reason we call it President's Day was you missed school for George Washington's birthday, then a week later you missed it for Lincoln's birthday. So you would put them together, let's celebrate the presidents, no?
Well,
Just
I
asking.
wasn't there to make sure around this legislation, but I'm just indicating to you that I think that you should move, it's a law, I mean, you have to do it, so, but
Are our designations set in policy? Does this need to be referred to the policy committee?
well, that's a great point, because it's a law, so it really was, I don't know, is our policy has designations of holidays in
Yeah.
them.
School calendar, maybe?
Yeah, I think it's how we
use
list
our
it.
calendar, we use our calendar as to list all of the holidays, both the calendar that we publish for the students and families and post on our website, and also your calendars that we post with your packets every month. If you feel like it needs to go back to policy for a recommendation to this full board, I understand that, I have no problem with that, except that the law would supersede, in my opinion, the.
Right, I understand. It's just anytime our policy no longer matches state law, we update our policy, right? So
Right.
anytime the RSA changes, we,
Right, but we don't have a policy.
We don't have a
naming all
policy,
the
okay.
holidays.
Yeah, because I remember
Okay.
when this changed from Columbus to Indigenous Peoples, were you here or was it?
I was
Yeah.
here.
That was just done at a board meeting, it wasn't in policy.
gotcha, okay.
It was like a calendar change.
So
And a
are
vote
we,
by the board.
Right.
are we looking for a motion to amend our calendar holidays to reflect?
I mean, we
It's a
already
law.
approved our
Stage.
calendars, so could we get away with just leaving it as is for this year and then fix it next
Yeah,
year?
we missed our,
No.
No, because the law, if you looked at the law, there's a date when that has to be in effect. So,
Yeah.
It's effective September 10th.
September 10th, today is the 3rd.
So I would suggest that we change page 49, where it lists Indigenous People Day. Columbus Day.
I would suggest that we add the other holidays as well, the
Well,
correct holidays.
Yeah,
as
to
we
the
go
extent
through.
that they're not on our
Yeah.
calendar yet.
Right, the only two
But
that
in
would
anything
affect you
that's
would be
public.
the Washington President's Day, Washington's birthday now,
wow.
/ was
Poor
President's Day.
Lincoln, he just got riffed in this one.
And then
I concur.
and then Indigenous, okay?
Yep.
Is that a motion? Was that?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh,
Is that a
So-
motion?
Now,
Do we need to?
do Do we need to? It's a law.
Yeah.
I don't know as you really need to.
Okay.
I just
So
we'll just do
suggest
it.
correct it.
Yeah,
Right.
all right, yeah.
It'll be corrected.
I would have voted no just to make a point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm also, as I'm reading the law, it says any official communication, publication, document, or calendars that, I mean,
I've got to change everything.
yeah.
But I didn't want to do that until I had a conversation with you.
What do we? I don't love
Live
it.
free or die.
Don't let freedom pass you by.
Really, really important stuff going on.
Oh, it is. The legislature just
And
nails
if you
it.
take a look at what I put in the book for you, they tied it to
Civics
civics
education.
education.
We
And
call that a non-germane amendment.
yeah, and so that's how it got tied into this
It's
this bill.
ridiculous.
So obviously the civics piece is important to us too because that's part of our curriculum work. So anyway, I'm good with that. I'm going to ask that number 3 be tabled, Brenda, because until I have the data, John and I talked about it today, that I would prefer that we not discuss it until such time that I feel comfortable with the numbers.
Okay.
Okay. And the last item on my part tonight is the summer school update. I asked John to kind of update you on what happened at summer school and give you a little background on it. Sure. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Good evening. I handed all of you just some data with attendance and figures, just so you all have it. Overall, we had 496 students attend our ESY and Title I programs this summer and are entering K. So, it was a good year for attendance. This year we used Schoolology to track our attendance with kids and put a little emphasis on having them attend, and it was very good. We were up over 85%, which was pretty good for our summer, which was pretty good. Doing that, we had to combine both Beaver Meadow and Crystal McAuliffe and Millbrook and Broken Ground because of the construction that was happening at the buildings, and it was a busy busy schools, but they did real well together, and it was nice because we had some new administrators that were able to kind of pair up and be together with other administrators, so it kind of unintended consequences, I say, of what it was, but it worked out really well. We adopted 2 programs this year that were a little more, kind of managed and scripted and consistent, because we wanted consistency and parity across the district. So we worked together and purchased Lit Camp, which is from Scholastic, and it's a way of a multimodal approach to really balanced literacy, and got really nice reviews. We surveyed the teachers and got really nice reviews. They seemed to like it. It outlined certain modules of lessons that they walk through each month. It came with books, it came with materials and workbooks and manipulatives and everything else that they had, and it was all in one big kit, and they were able to really utilize that. We were able to utilize our ESSER funds to purchase those that we have, and we'll have those from years to come for our summer school. And then we also, working with Chantel DiNapoli, we purchased UCube out of Stanford, and again, it was a real creative, different thinking mathematically mindset for our students, and it again seemed to go real well. We, like any new program, I think we have more work to do and more training, but I think that overall it was pretty clear what the expectation was to what to teach over the summer this year in our programs, and it worked out pretty well. And just a big thank you to the administrators and central office team, including Kim and Kathleen and Jack and Matt, just to step up in my absence to really make sure summer school ran well, and it seemed to run very smoothly. And always a shout out to Terry and the bus company who got our kids here and all over the city this year, the way it had to work with the combination of buildings.
Well, we're happy to have you back too, John.
Thank you.
Healthy and
Thank
better
you.
than ever.
Thank you.
I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions for Superintendent Murphy?
No, but I have a statement.
Sure.
to piggyback on the first days of school.
Yeah.
I just want to say to everyone that the PTOs and PTAs are very important to not only all public schools, but to our public schools here in Concord. So I encourage everyone to, if you haven't volunteered, if you haven't attended a PTO or PTA meeting, please do. It's a great way to learn more about what's going on in the school from the teachers, from the administration, not only at the school, but also district staff who sometimes attend those meetings. If you have not, especially for new families, if you are not a registered volunteer, please go to the SAU 8 website to get more information about how to register to become a volunteer in the schools.
Great addition. All right, we'll move on now to curriculum instruction and assessment. That, I believe, will be a presentation from Assistant Superintendent Kim Yarlow. Are we going to have a? I can move over here.
Everybody can. Everybody can.
There's plenty of room.
I've never said anything about your head.
Thank you for having us. The goal of today is, or this evening, is to give you an overview of 2 new math programs that we've adopted. Now, we gave a presentation to the instructional committee way back when we were looking at the adoption of these programs and went through the process a little bit. But what we'd like to do now is to just give you from the point of view of the educators and from Nicole Barnett, who is the math coordinator facilitator at the high school, and Chantel DiNapoli, who is the K through 6 math coordinator, right?
Yes.
And the titles always get me. So we really wanted to go over the 2 programs, and you know from the prior presentations that we adopted a new K through 6 program, and that we also aligned our algebra instruction from 7th, 8th, all the way up to 11th. And so this is going to be a very, very brief presentation about those 2 programs, and the purpose of that, obviously, was one of our goals with our strategic plan is that K through 12 alignment. And rather than having lots of different programs that students are interacting with dependent on who their educator is or the teacher is or what school they're at, we will now have consistency in instructional programming and hopefully a lot more rigor in our overall math programming. So Chantel, do you want to start? I'm going to put this in slideshow if I can.
All right. Hi, everyone. So our program adoption timeline, as you know, we've used Eureka Math K-8 for the last 10 years. So it was certainly time to review our materials and to find something else that better met our students' needs. In 2022, we started to pilot open up resources. That's when we actually started, looking elsewhere, just for middle school and high school. And that, like Mrs. Yarlett said, the point of that was to really look at aligning algebra across from 8th grade to the high school. After that pilot got started, we began a K-12 program review process for the full year of 23 to 24. And had representatives across all of our schools. This year, for the 24-25 school year, we will have a full adoption of our iReady Classroom K-6. We're excited to better align, as you can see through this timeline, we're looking to align the middle school and the high school better. And then have that same consistency and alignment from our elementary to middle school. So part of our committee's decision was to go K-6 with the same program and then 7 through 12 with the other program. So it will be a full adoption year. Our committee, our program review process, it did include K-12 representatives from all of our schools and from all of our different grade levels. Input was collected from teachers, pilots were done within classrooms, Our K-6 programs there were 6 of them that were selected and carefully reviewed using ed reports and research on what to bring to the table, and then teacher piloting and a review process to look at those. We did use a research-based criteria. A rubric was developed and utilized for each of those programs. And then for grades 7 to 12, we received feedback from the pilot. Professional development and ed reports was used for that adoption determination. So it was a pretty intense process. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about our K-6 program. We have actually started implementing it as of today across all of our classrooms in K-6. I will tell you that teachers are excited. I think, it helps to bring a program on when people are ready for change. So right now, I started meeting with schools today. I was at Beaver Meadow all day meeting with those teachers. They're excited. They're kicking off and getting started. We're unpacking and planning together, so it's exciting. So it is a shift. It aligns with our standards and competencies in the same way that Eureka Math did, but this really shifts our instructional practices to a focus on student-centered discourse, to a focus on reasoning and problem solving. We're really teaching in a way that promotes sense making. Students trying things and engaging in productive struggle and flexible thinking. iReady Classroom includes a framework for instruction that starts with problem solving and encourages students to make sense of problems, to try them on their own before we teach them how to do it. We're asking students to make sense and try it first. It pushes them to talk to each other, to compare strategies, to be able to explain their thinking, because in the real world, math isn't just doing problems, but it includes the sense making. And then lastly, connecting it to those strategies that we need to move them towards. So it's not a huge difference in the actual math. It is still aligned to the same standards, but it is a huge difference in how we're presenting those materials to students and the sense making and reasoning that are involved. So with this program, we do expect a continuous review of student achievement growth. Ongoing assessments are going to track student performance and data. One of the things we were looking for was varied problem types. As we've looked at data in the past, we have shared that one of the things we're missing from our students is flexibility. So when problems look different, it's really hard for them to make sense of them. So this program involves more varied problem types. There's ongoing assessments built into the program that we'll be monitoring. And we will be using the iReady diagnostic in grades 3 to 6 that will align with this program. We'll be using it through 8th grade, but in 3 to 6, not only will we be using it, but there'll be strong alignment with their program materials so we can utilize that data in more effective ways. So as you know, we have been giving the iReady diagnostic in the past. We just didn't have the instructional program and materials to also support that data. This is one example. We know that iReady is just one tool that we measure data. So we need multiple tools to see how our students are doing. What I like about the iReady data is it doesn't just tell us if students are proficient or not, but it shows us their growth. So even our students who are struggling, it can show us if they're making growth. And we have already started, this is an example of one school from last year, we have started seeing evidence that our students are growing. So this is one particular school and some of the data that we're able to look at through iReady. If you look at the top part, that's showing a 4th grade cohort in one school. So the bottom is a measurement of the data from the fall. When they took the iReady assessment in the fall, only 14% of them were showing proficiency in where they needed to be. And as you can see over to the end in the red, 39% of them were well below proficiency. By the final diagnostic, they grew from 14% now up to 58% where they need to be, and only 11% in the red. We want to keep increasing that, but what it showed us was our students might not all be where they need to be. We want to see higher than 58%, but they're growing because they only started at 14 at the beginning of that school year. Same thing with 5th grade. We went from I think I just flipped the 2 grade levels. So if you're trying to look at the numbers and seeing which one I'm looking at. Oh, no, sorry, we're good. So grade 5 is the same thing. We started in the fall at only 17% at proficiency, and 39% of them were in the red and significantly below. We bumped that up to 55%. So again, we have more growth, but what we're seeing through this assessment is our students are growing. If you click on the next slide, the reason I'm sharing this with you is because often when we looked at that data, it was hard to determine what to do with the data because then we had different materials and things we needed to accomplish. Using iReady Classroom, we can align our practices and our assessment data together to drive that instructional decision making. So with that data that we're collecting through the diagnostics, we can identify what the prerequisite skills are, who our students are who are underperforming and who are working towards proficiency, and we'll have the tools and resources to be able to pull lessons, to pull different resources for intervention. So we can be more data-driven in our instructional decision-making. The other resource that we have through iReady Classroom is access to learning progressions, so we can really see this is what we need to be working on in our grade level, and these are the prerequisites that really will build up to that. So that's an overview of just some of our shifts, a more data-driven process, as well as a stronger shift to sense making. Did you have any questions for us about just, changes with iReady Classroom?
One that comes up in my mind is have you thought about how, I know you'll be assessing these programs each year. Is there a window of time where you look at them and say, wow, we're 2-3 years in and we're seeing that up to 50%, but we're not really getting over that? At what point will you, as a group, take a look at the information provided and make a decision whether you think this program is working to the effect that you would like it to?
So we agreed on a 5-year implementation. 5 years, because if we do less than that, it's not really enough time to see that shift across grade levels. Usually when you adopt a new program, there will be bumps and struggles because we're asking kids to learn a new language, to learn new procedures, and to think differently. And there is more rigor in the way we're asking them to think.
We've got to give the teachers enough time to become comfortable with it as well. Okay. Good.
That time frame gives us more time to get away from COVID-affected kids as well. I mean,
Right.
well, everyone, but 5 years from now, the first and second graders that are just a couple of years into it, that'll give us a clear understanding of kids that come to school a bit more ready without 2 years at home. It's just a different way to look at the data.
And it's not 10. So 5 years feels a little, at that point, we do need to review.
Yep.
Any other questions about the elementary to middle school program?
Can I ask a question? Because I think it's pertinent, and we always hear about operations, numbers and operations, right? And I know that over the last year, your team, the math coaches prior to this year, and your classroom teachers were all really involved in fluency and numbers and operations. That's the basic foundation, your addition, your subtraction, multiplication, division, whatever. And as it grows into ratios and percentages and all the, right, as you go up the scale. How does this program address that? Because those are the foundation skills that we all believe that youngsters need.
So I'll start with the fact fluency, there is a component within this program where students are able to practice their fact fluency on their student dashboard on their computers. The reason I bring that up is because it also tracks data for us. Again, that data piece where we can see not just we're practicing our facts in class, but one of the things that I'm excited to see more about with that fluency program is not just how fast can you go, but it teaches them the strategies, the models, focuses on accuracy, and then gets them to try to get a little bit faster with their facts. So the fact fluency piece, I'm happy that it's built in. In the younger grades, there's also a heavy component on centers. Centers will help us to get kids their hands on materials and really focus on doing and playing and exploring. Those are very focused on both fluency and number sense, which is some of what you're asking about. So that gets kids engaged, not just doing the work, but actually applying it and exploring with each other. As far as those operations, there's a heavy focus on the priority standards within this program. I found that within this program, they're more ongoing than they were, so they're not so taught in isolation. We are putting a heavy focus on pacing and really working with our consultants and focusing on, on really getting to all of the grade level content. Pacing has always been a struggle because there are so many standards. So that's something we've been talking about. I think one of the tricky parts is getting to everything and trying to fit in all of those pieces. So with a new program, it's a new opportunity to look at how we can not just drag students through, but really teach effectively so that we get to all of those things.
Can I have one more? So we've talked a lot about accelerated learning because during the pandemic, we know that we had a learning gap. But the students get promoted to the next grade. They have the learning gap. How do you close the learning gap and still teach them that skill? Maybe it's the 4th grade or the 5th grade level, because otherwise they're always behind. And so I see that when I look at the data. We just got the data, the statewide data today, right? We got the final, certified data from the Department of Ed, finally. And so I look at all that data and I know that if we don't think about acceleration, and I don't mean that they're doing work at the high school level in 5th grade, that's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying that they have to stay with their grade level competencies and still catch up where the gap occurred because, they weren't great remote learners or whatever the reason was.
So I'm excited about that piece. I think there's more to offer here than what we previously had. As you're seeing there, using some of our prerequisite reports and some of those different skills, we're going to be working with interventionists, both our tutors and our special educators, for those groups of students who are getting those interventions, to really thinking about filling those prerequisites so that kids can access Tier 1 instruction. Making sure that we know what are the prerequisite skills for kids to be able to work on that unit that those teachers are doing in the classroom, and making sure that those students are not pulled out of the classroom during any Tier 1 instruction. So that try it, discuss it, connect it, that framework that I shared with you on having kids try things, talking, that was designed so that all kids can access it. If we really teach kids to make sense of something, everyone has an access point. And so one of our strongest pieces of PD is going to be, how does every kid access that, have that individual think time, and be part of their grade level class, and not giving alternative work because they're not there. So both keeping them in Tier 1, making sure that they can access it, and then on top of that, making sure that our interventions are also pulling from these resources to fill those prerequisite skills. I think there'll be better alignment so that we can get them closer to grade level.
Great. when we're talking about the fact fluency and number sense, are we still focusing on making 10 and automaticity?
Yeah, so the strategies are not different because those are the strategies that are in our standards. So strategies like making 10, fact fluency, accuracy is important, having strategies is important, but then the automaticity is important too because you don't want to be sitting there forever coming up with 6 times 7. So all of those strategies that we've been using, those aren't changing.
Okay, so we'll still be using
We'll
those.
still be using those.
Okay, so we're keeping what worked, we're changing what didn't, and moving forward with something that's a better product overall.
And what's great is, as far as the content itself, there's not a big new learning curve for teachers. All of that content knowledge that they have, all of the strategies that they've been using, those really do stay the same because it's aligned with our standards and with our research-based PD we've had in the past. It's really how we present instruction to them. And that's what wasn't seeming to work for all of our students.
Sounds fabulous, makes me want to get back into a classroom.
Follow-up question for the non-teacher in the room.
Yes.
I get I can't say it.
Automaticity.
But what was the other one you said? Something 10?
Make 10s.
Make 10.
So that you could say you have a rectangle divided into 2 pieces, you've got 4 on top, and
Gotcha.
you've got to tell me how many it takes to get to 10.
Gotcha.
Without really
Thank
having
you.
to count by ones to do.
Thank you. So the basics. Okay.
The basics.
It's connecting. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Chantel. And all of our PD this year, in September, October, November, and March, for K through 6, will be focused on diving into iReady Classroom, and the focus will be on the training for teachers. Some teachers had training over the summer, volunteered to come in and start off early, and otherwise, we're just going to hit the road running and go with this. And I think probably the biggest thing to point out and impress upon is the fact that the assessment now matches the curriculum or the program. So we're not taking an assessment and retrofitting it to a program and say, so how do I intervene? This is a very, very smart program, and it will help us with those interventions and individualize it for students. So next up, any other questions?
Just, do all of the schools, all have math tutors?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
So we're going to talk about open up, or you're going to get 2 mics. No. Open up algebra. I think you're going to hear a similar theme from the iReady, which
Mine
is
won't be
really
as
lovely.
long.
Right?
Mine won't be as long, she's most of it. But no, that's okay. So Open Up Resources was adopted 2 years ago, or began the pilot 2 years ago in 8th grade algebra and Algebra 1 at the high school. It's a program that this was found through the Ed report as well. It was one of the programs that was in the K-12 district math committee review, and we looked at a few others. The pilot had begun before the committee had started, though. There aren't too many high school level math programs out there that fit the quality that we were looking for. So that was one of our selections. So really the nuts and bolts of Open Up Resources, it is a K-12 program. We are looking at it for 7 through 11. So 7th grade math through Algebra 2. It follows a lot of the same principles and procedures that iReady Math uses. They call them in this one the 5 practices for orchestrating productive mathematics discussion. So it is looking at students building and thinking critically about problems and trying the math and looking at how they can work through problems together and then solidify patterning and building the structures around math to connect it further. So it is definitely getting them thinking. It's moving forward with the building thinking classroom instructional practices that the high school and the middle school are using. Is the elementary school doing? Okay. So it's really students walk into the classroom and they're in small groups, standing at vertical surfaces around the room. The teacher will put up a problem that is a thinking task where there's a low floor, high ceiling. All students can engage in it to some degree. And then the teacher, after some time of students working and thinking, the teacher will pause the class and have the students walk around and look at each other's work, where the teacher is picking the groups and the work to highlight not all of the students' work, but specific pieces of student work to build the greater thinking of the class and solidify the understanding using everybody's ideas, which is huge. It's getting everybody accessing the math from the beginning to the end to build the level no matter where you're starting from. So Access for All it's in there. It is a lot of work on the teachers. This is a big change from where a traditional higher level math class would come from. It's definitely different algebra than you all had, than I had when we were in high school, but it has a lot of really great components to it. They are building in stronger math language, UDL approaches, ELL approaches. There's right in the program is how can you work with students who have this level of understanding of math as you are starting this lesson to build them to the next step, because we know all students are coming in at different levels when they enter our classrooms at the high school.
Tim, do you want to come speak to this?
I mean, I can.
Just share with you what's changed by adopting this program in terms of having 7th and 8th graders doing algebra.
I was hoping to sit back there and be unnoticed. Anyhow,
Good luck with that. Now.
So you may be familiar with this page. It comes from our program of studies. Some of the stuff that we have been doing over the past couple of years is looking what other high schools around are doing for their math programs, as well as looking at the national trend with math. And what we're finding is people are disrupting scope and sequence that we traditionally have followed. Saying that geometry, yes, it is a bridge. It does cover some Algebra 1 into light Algebra 2 concepts, but there is no reason not to go from one level of algebra to the next, that you can do back-to-back years of that. And in addition to that, every state and national assessment we take, Algebra 2, we're evaluated on when our students haven't even made it halfway through the curriculum. So with that being said, we've looked at the national trends, what other schools around the country are doing, as well as local schools. We looked at the assessments that we're being evaluated on for our state, and some of our assessments that we have, iReady not necessarily, but other assessments like the PSATs, etc. They're using Algebra 2 as the bar where we should be proficient in when our kids have not been fully exposed to it by the time they're doing the assessment. So we've done quite a bit of work over the past 3 years to really dig into this and have adjusted our scope and sequence. It does not mean that a student won't have an opportunity to take geometry. It doesn't mean a student can't take geometry during their sophomore year. Oftentimes we have students who are eager to progress in our math programs and advance to the higher levels, double up. Freshman year, more often than not, like taking Algebra 1 or geometry, or their sophomore year taking geometry and Algebra 2. Another really unique thing about this that is something that at first we weren't really considering this, but really aligns with the strategic plan of the district, is equity and access to higher level math. Algebra 2 is the gateway math to our pre-calc and our calculus and our advanced math classes. Having that your sophomore year and being able to successfully complete that opens up a wide variety of opportunities for you in your junior and senior year, which we feel really does up the rigor of our curriculum and expectations around math.
Thank you, Dr. Herbert. Does anybody have any questions about this?
If a student takes algebra in 7th grade, can they take algebra 2 in 8th grade?
We do have some middle schoolers who come up to the high school and take mathematics at the high school. So To say that that specific situation has happened, I can't say that it has, but would we be open to it?
It has happened. Yes, we have had students entering the high school in ninth grade taking calculus. It has happened, yes.
Yeah, so we are always open to whatever the level that the student can, achieve at, we want to make it available to them.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all so much. This is really great.
Oh, so many
Excited to
high
hear
school
how it
flashbacks
was.
right now.
Oh, my God, yes. Well, I mentioned that this is an overview. It's probably getting a little more in-depth than maybe you perhaps wanted, but we feel like it's important with these two programs and also the restructuring of math in general, district-wide, and that it's a K through 12 thrust.
And with the board's determination that one of our goals is to really dive back into instruction, this is really helpful for us to have as a whole, so that we all have the same information. So thank you all very much.
Yeah, really appreciate your hard work.
Good work.
Yeah.
That was great.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, man, that's some good stuff.
You should try it out on us.
All right, moving on to the finance report. Will that be Mr. Dunn today?
That will be Mr. Dunn.
All right, when you are ready, Mr. Dunn.
Sure. This is where the finance.
Yes.
So this is very early on in the finance. This is on page 32.
32.
So right now, we're in the process of stepping up the staff. Into stepping up the staff. So that process is all your 10-month staff members, they get their step up and raises and encumber their salaries. So when you look at the salaries for the teachers and see $32 million available, that's not available. It's just, we haven't committed it yet, okay? Because the next payroll is September 16th. So they're in the process of going contract by contract, making sure it's proofed. And then they'll run the encumbrance, and then we'll see what we call the ins and outs are. So the year-to-date column will start to look a little bit more of a picture of what's available in those accounts. Same thing when you get into the ed assistants as well. I don't believe they're encumbered. That's why you're seeing 3.7 million available. That will not be the case. We didn't over budget by that much, so don't get concerned. Okay. And some of these other red accounts may be encumbrances that need to be cleared out. So it doesn't give you a real solid picture yet. One of the things that probably didn't get discussed tonight will be some special education expenses that we'll be seeing, whether it's in nursing, paraprofessional, contracted services. So that's something we're going to save, I think, for the finance committee. It's either at the end of September or early October, depending on what your schedule looks like when you get to that component. Other than that, there's nothing really at the moment that jumps out that's a concern. We just have to do some adjustments, but it's way too early. We're only the second month into, 10 months left before you know it, graduation will be here. And I will have one of those, so, graduates. But anyway, any specific questions? Anything jumps out?
Anyone?
Okay, thank you.
Seeing anything? Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Welcome.
All right, next we'll move on to communication and policy and instructional, which did meet together. The reason that these notes and meeting minutes were not in the consent agenda, I believe, is because it will be going back to policy for more in-depth looks and thoughts and conversations. This meeting was not televised, but as I said, it will be discussed in policy in depth, and that will be televised. So it will be available to the public to see those discussions. So we'll be coming back to that. Is that an adequate?
We just need a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Is there sorry, doing your job. Is there any discussion?
Well, actually, it was, yeah, I have to say, as So I sit on both committees. So I have my teacher head on both times. And it made it really obvious to me, as a member of the policy committee, how important it is for these two committees to work together on not just class size policies. I just felt our conversations were fantastic.
It was
And
great.
it was because we had policy-minded people and teacher-minded people all having this discussion around, it was, I don't know, I just felt like we should think about, when policies come up that could benefit from teacher input, that these two committees should work together. Because I would come up with something, and Kathleen or Sarah, because you're policy-minded, even though you're instructional committee, would say, well, but in a policy, how,
Yeah.
and then we'd all go, oh, okay, wait. Or a policy wording, and as a teacher, well, no, that doesn't work, because what if this happens? It was just a super healthy conversation. It's too bad it wasn't televised, because it
Yeah.
was it was a good conversation. So I'm excited for it to come to policy, because I think.
Yeah, I look forward to
Yeah.
having that full discussion, and then, to that point, anytime a policy is recommended to the full board, we can have a broader conversation
Yeah.
about that. I think a lot of times when policy comes to the full board, there's a lot of trust that policy has already vetted everything, that the conversation has been had, but it's absolutely an opening for us to discuss as a full board things that might be important to other people who are not on policy, that have
Absolutely.
instructional mindset. So,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and tip of the hat to Barb and Brenda carrying the teacher understanding through that conversation, because I have never run a classroom. So it was really helpful to have you both, having had such long careers in teaching and knowing, like having that lived experience of, no, I remember big classrooms when it was impractical to be able to teach everyone. And I've also been in classrooms with not enough kids
Right.
for it to be interesting or meet our goals. So yeah, great conversation. I'm proud of the work we did.
And the
Thank you to
high school is
policy.
so unique compared to, like, you can't have district-wide class sizes.
That's
because
it.
it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Certain classes are small, but
Yeah.
does it mean we don't run them?
Right.
Like, it was a good conversation.
Agreed.
Great. Love that.
I think the other piece to it too is we went around and looked at other school districts and tried to,
Yeah.
of equal size, we looked at cities. And what do the cities have, districts may not be a city, but as large as we are, and tried to see what their policies were. And so you had a chance to look at various districts across the state to help make that decision.
And happily, we found, I think, and then agreed that what we have this year for class sizes would fall into what we would consider maybe setting as a future class size policy. So, I feel like we're on the right track, and I think we all left feeling that way with at least regard to this particular area.
Yeah, totally agree.
Nice, great. All right, well, now we'll move into public
Well,
comment.
We have to get the ayes and the nays.
Oh, we didn't get the ayes and nays
No.
yet? We gotta do that.
All in favor.
All in favor of accepting these minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? All right, very good.
Thank
Cool.
you.
All
We'll
right.
now move on to public comment. We have 30 minutes set aside for this. I do think we have a list of people that have
Matt, will you grab?
signed up to share their thoughts with us, and we will ask that you limit your comments to about 3 minutes a comment, if you would. That would be great. Thank you. All right. Robert Massini, please.
Good evening. My name's Bob Massini. I live on School Street. I have a 13-year-old who went through Krista McAuliffe School and had 3 wonderful years at Runlet, enjoyed every minute of it, and has auspiciously embarked on her high school career at Concord High School and had a great first week. So I'm excited about that. Before I give my comments, I just want you to know I timed this at home to be 3 minutes, so I'm hoping to avoid the dreaded "you have 30 seconds" thing. I promise not to bang on. The school board has stated that it will cost more to build the middle school at Runlet than at Broken Ground. The cost of Broken Ground is now set at $152 million, but that does not include the cost of new infrastructure, which the school board has yet to identify. According to the HMFH architects, which I have here, in 2022, the total cost of building at Runlet is $131 million 21 million less than broken ground, and it will be even less once the broken ground infrastructure cost is added. So regarding infrastructure at broken ground, here are excerpts that I transcribed from 2 meetings of the Concord School Board Capital Facilities Committee, April 6th and May 9th, 2022, available online. Ms. Murphy, and we also, it's a huge thing when you can find a site that has the utilities like water, sewer services already in place. And when you go and build a property, when you build and you have a piece of property that doesn't have that advantage, it can be incredibly costly. So that's something that you think about when you're securing a piece of property. Ms. Walsh, which is one of the challenges with broken ground. Mr. Cotton, right, yes. Ms. Walsh, we'd have to upgrade all of that. Next meeting. Ms. Murphy, did you want to make any comments about any of the land? Anybody have any questions about the sites? I mean, broken ground, you've talked about that a lot, about why that site has been set aside. Mr. Dunn, yeah, I mean, that was purchased, I believe, in the 80s, at least the history that was given to me by a prior attorney. They represented the district for 70 years. That was bought to be a second middle school or a second high school back in the day, long before that development was put in. But laws and things have changed. There's 59 acres there. There's no infrastructure to get back there. When they did Millbrook, it was $140,000 just to pave that road from the fence line of a neighbor right to where the shed is, the maintenance shed that we put in. Now, you'd have to add in, probably needs good septic, you'd have to put in natural gas infrastructure, water infrastructure, road infrastructure, all of which taxpayers are going to pick up. We're going to be treated just like a builder. If a builder was building a residence back there, they pay for that infrastructure. So we would be looking at doing that. So then you go on the flip side, there's a lot of walking trails and stuff back there. Would you start impeding them? And that will probably bring out a whole different set of constituents that would be upset. Maybe that's going to go away. Ms. Higgins, and nobody could walk to that school. Mr. Dunn, well, that neighborhood could, but I don't know, that road that goes in, it's a tiny street. So we looked at that and weighed it and talked to the board and said, yeah, you own it, that's great, but is that really, do you really want to go down there? And you would have the highest concentration of kids, probably, that's 900 and 750, 1,600
sorry,
kids.
but you are well over your 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm just about done.
Thank you.
You'd have 40% of the school population right on that one site. Ms. Higgins, and you get to it by going through these little neighborhoods. Mr. Dunn, yeah, I just don't know how that would go.
Thank you, Ms. Matheny.
Thank you.
Stephen Michaelovich, please.
Good evening. Steve Michaelovitz, 47 South Curtisville Road, Concord. On Monday, August 12th, 2024, my wife and I attended the meeting of the Concord School Board and Middle School Building Committee. We left with some questions since public comment is not included as a segment of these committee meetings. The architect, Holly, I believe, mentioned that she had communicated with the city with regard to the geographic area that should be included in the traffic studies. She did not mention the name of the city contact. A board member asked if Mountain Road was included in the geographic area to be studied. Her no response was of concern to some of the board members, as it was to us also. That is an extremely busy road, especially during the school arrival and dismissal traffic times. We are asking for clarification as to who is actually conducting the studies and who at the city provided the information as to what geographic areas should be included. The architect also mentioned that they hope to complete the traffic studies soon. That is also of concern because traffic issues increase dramatically during inclement weather and during winter months when snow piles often make the various access roads to the broken ground area even narrower. Studies should certainly be conducted during those conditions. We have communicated with the city traffic engineer numerous times via phone and email regarding the traffic issues, especially those on Portsmouth Street and South Curtisville Road. She indicated today that she has not received any information regarding traffic studies that have been conducted, nor has the Concord School Board applied to the Planning Board for RSA 674.54 review of its proposed middle school project. We understand that questions cannot be answered during this public comment segment, but we would greatly appreciate having a board member or representative contact us with the answers to these traffic study questions and with any information available regarding when the school board may be ready to apply to the planning board for review of the proposed middle school project. And I think my mic went out. Apologies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff Wells?
In case this died, I'll put this here. Let me just flip.
Good evening, Jeff Wells, Ward 5. I'd just like to add a little bit more about infrastructure. Want to note I'm not a civil engineer, but I've done some research, and it looks like the road that would connect into broken ground off of Portsmouth Street would be roughly 1,000 feet in from Portsmouth into your initial parking lots based upon your site diagrams. One would think that Portsmouth Street at that intersection or the new intersection would then become a three-way stop. Is that going to need a traffic light? Are you going to need turn lanes from each direction so people can get through depending on how traffic is governed there? That 1,000-foot entrance road, as I'm calling it, would be 2 lanes of traffic, one in each direction. And then one would assume that the road would have a common width, which based on the internet is 24 feet. You'd have shoulders on those roads of 4 feet on each side, sidewalks of 5 feet on each side, bicycle lanes, if you want to talk about bikeability and walkability within to that school site, would be required. So then you're talking a total of 54 feet in width and length. So that's quite a bit, a stretch of road that's going to have to be built. I haven't heard details like this in your planning. I don't know what that would cost, but I think everybody wants to understand what that cost would be and how that would factor into the entire budget for your project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Stacy Brown, please.
I've got my timer. So, have you seen the new Krista McAuliffe statue? It is fantastic. And I love it not because she's the only woman on that State House lawn or that she's the only statue smiling. What I love about it is she's moving. She is the only statue in motion on that State House lawn. And I think it's so important that we see our leaders moving and that we see teachers embracing learning outside the classroom. My son is a senior now at Concord High, but when he was a first grader in 2013, at Krista McAuliffe, I was on the PTO and chaired the biggest fundraiser at the time, the Walkathon. I made it bigger, and I teamed up with Beth Richards, Jim's better half, who was the VP for the National Safe Routes to School, and we created a month-long fitness fundraiser, Walktober. I designed a checkerboard with activities that kids could do to take an adult, take an adult for a walk, bike to school. These spaces all had different activities to get kids moving. We had all kinds of prizes to motivate them. We had glow-in-the-dark wristbands. We had playground balls that we gave to the classroom with the most participation. There's even a gift certificate for a parent. We needed to raise money to pay for field trips. You know how expensive transportation and buses are, and in 2013, CMS PTO paid $8,200 for field trips. Walktober raised $5,000, so that was a big deal. But you think about how much money we can save when kids can walk to their field trip destinations. The new statue, Krista McAuliffe at the State House lawn, is exactly 1.5 miles from Runlet. So is the main library, the State House, the high school where kids can take Algebra 2, the New Hampshire Historical Society, and Main Street. I want to point out that the 2 citizen amendments will not slow down the process for rebuilding at Runlet or receiving school building aid. To receive aid, Concord must show how they will mitigate the deficiencies listed in the condition evaluation form that was in the school building aid application. 900 square foot classrooms are no longer required. Runlet is already bigger than it needs to be. In the mid-90s, there were over 1,300 students. We need a school that is safe to get to and safe to be in. Teaching and learning isn't restricted to the classroom. It's the teachers who inspire us to continue learning beyond the classroom. Krista McAuliffe is a perfect example. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was there anyone else? What was that? Was there anyone else that would like to speak that did not sign up? All right, well, we'll close public comment then. And move on to personnel. Will you be doing that,
I
Superintendent?
will be doing that. Just let me notes at the same time. So as I mentioned earlier tonight about our new position, I want to bring forward for confirmation from the board the position of the float nurse and place the name of Yolene Beaulieu as our float nurse for the school district. And for our Concord Regional Technical Center, our automotive teacher, I would like to place the name of Craig Emerson for nomination for the position of automotive teacher at the CT.
And those are the teaching nominations this evening?
Yeah, I move to accept those nominations.
Both of them?
Both of them.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? The motion passes.
In addition, I want to bring to your attention the fall coach nominations. You'll find those on page 44 of your packet. I'm just looking for one more too. I'm going to add one more, a very late one that just came in. I don't know if you have that at your.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
You have it at your table?
Yep.
Great, I don't have to tap, whoops, sure can. So, to do JV volleyball at Concord High School, Katie Amaral, JV spirit coach, Emily Grattan, Dana Folds will do intramural volleyball at Runlet Middle School. Erica Markson will also do volleyball and she's doing that at Runlet. Oh, she's at Runlet, I'm sorry.
She moved to Runlet this year.
She moved to Runlet, that's
Yes, she
right,
did.
right. So those are the nominations in addition to the one that I have asked, it was a late one, for Emily Ferrone as a volleyball B coach at Runlet.
Move acceptance.
Second?
Of the slate?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? It passes. Thank you.
One final one.
Oh, was there any discussion? Sorry. Did we have we didn't have any discussion. It's okay. It's passed. We're moving right along, Kathleen. Sorry. And then there's another in here?
On 45, right?
Yep.
I would like to place the name of Quincy Worthy for the Restorative Justice Coordinator for the Runlet Middle School, effective September, first day of school. Last week, actually. He was with us on the 28th, so he started on the 28th as our Restorative Justice Coach at Runlet Middle School.
I move acceptance.
Any discussion?
Wait, we need a second.
Oh, second.
Second.
Listen to these discussions.
Barb and I are in cahoots tonight. We're firsting and seconding everything.
Is there any discussion here?
Yay.
I would just like to, because might be the first time people are hearing about it, that this is a movement of Quincy from one position to another, which means that we have a vacancy for the director position, right? And that still is open and will be filled.
Right, we talked about that here, and we have specific tasks that we really have identified that are at a high level. This position at Runlet will be working directly with students and families. As I think I told you earlier, that there may be some additional students who will be placed here by Accentria, so we'll have some new students at our school and will need support. Quincy will be doing that kind of work. I think he's very excited about doing it. We were waiting today to find out if he was going to coach one of our soccer teams, which is his love, as you know. So it really, he's pretty excited. But there are some tasks that, like, for instance, the auditing of our co-curricular. There's some tasks around recruiting, because as you know, we're trying to have a diverse student population. We want to make sure that our teaching staff reflects the same diversity. So we have some big items to address. We also know that we would like to work very closely with the city in their work, and they have reached out to us and us to them, if you will, so that it's a real cooperative spirit around equity in our community. And that would be some roles that we would need someone to play, because Quincy's going to be really involved in the school life rather than the administrative kinds of tasks that went with that program. But I will say that I think that we might be able to do that maybe in a contract basis, where we contract that service. We can have really good control over that, and may not need that full-time 200-day kind of, we're still working on that, but we think we can take those tasks and do it in less time. So I'll get back to you on that.
I was gonna say, do you have a timeline for that?
Well, I haven't. We just broached this. We just finished Quincy's contract, as you know, and so now I'm ready to start in on that. We have some references that people have alerted me to, so I'll be working with Michelle Guerin to work on that. And Quincy too. Quincy will be involved in it. We still would like him to participate in some things like our professional development committee. He worked very closely with Kim in bringing workshops to our teachers. And so there'll be some tasks that we will still have him working on district-wide, like we do with any teacher, by the way, right? They all work on committees, curriculum committees, equity committees, so
Right.
I'll keep
I think
you
it's great.
posted.
I mean, I think this is a great fit for Quincy. I'm
Yeah.
excited for the new role.
Yeah.
I just want to make clear that for me personally, that doesn't mean we don't need a director. And I like the idea that we're expanding our offerings and not necessarily shifting focus away from a director position.
Right, and I think that the advisory committee will be looking, and again, Quincy will be part of that, but we'll be looking for setting those goals for that committee that will help me in terms of what we need to do to broaden our work around equity, diversity, inclusion. And remember, that isn't just for the new Americans that arrive in our city, but it encompasses our youngsters that have other, might be youngsters that are facing poverty, youngsters that may be homeless. We are addressing all special ed youngsters with maybe an IEP. Those youngsters often need support from our staff, and this would be a great role.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So we have a first and a second, we just need to vote on it?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Welcome back to Quincy. Woohoo!
Great news.
And we'll now go to subcommittees. Are there any reports from subcommittees or subcommittees? Traffic and transportation?
Well,
Superintendent
that's
Murphy?
obviously, you heard a little bit of that tonight in our folks that made public comment. We, I hope tomorrow, we talked about it, getting a newsletter out We are asking folks to express interest in serving on a traffic and transportation committee, just like we did with the program committee, you did with the building committee, sustainability. We had folks from the community, the general public, our stakeholders participate, so we will be reaching out, looking for folks who would serve on that committee and help us with that. We will have the data around transportation and buses. I mean, we've been working on that. Also, the traffic studies and so forth will be prepared for that committee. So we'll have good, robust discussions around those issues. So we're just ready to go. Really, I don't have anything else yet.
Fantastic. Well, moving on to other business and monthly enrollment reports.
I think I quickly reviewed that for
Yeah.
you when we went in. I just know those numbers are soft. I don't have any really other explanation for you. We're kind of monitoring, we're monitoring homeschoolers, out-of-district placements, all of those things we're getting our arms around right as the year opens. But we'll have better data for you, including the numbers at the Career and Technical Center, as well as our students from Deerfield. So you can see that, obviously Deerfield had a change when they voted to allow students to attend another school. And so you'll see the numbers dropped a little bit, down from around 40, I think last year was 40, we got 46 last year, we're down to 25. So I'll have that for you next month.
Thank you. And calendars. Lots of those.
I don't want to tell you that you don't have a busy month, but you do. And so tomorrow night, you have a meeting where it's an informational session. It's a posted meeting, but we don't televise it. But folks who are interested in seats on the board, there are 3 seats open this year that will be on the ballot for November. And so there'll be an informational session. This is a chance for people to come, ask you questions about the board and your work. And probably the one I heard most about was how many hours do you spend with this work? And I
Depends.
yeah. And but there'll be a good opportunity for that. We put in open houses, just so you know, if you have time and you want to stop by. I know some of you do. You stop by, say hello. But so they're on your calendar. I know that the Blue Dukes are excited about Thursday night. So, and then the filing period opens on Friday, and for folks who file, they can come here and file. And I think there's a small fee.
It's $5.
$5. The inflation, I guess, hasn't really
Caught
done
up yet.
anything to that yet. And then Bridget's here, and so she takes that, and she works with your school clerk, so he gets all of the nominations, he takes care of all of that, so. That starts on Friday. Following week, you have, as you know, you have a public hearing on middle school, on the middle school project. It's a little change in venue. We thought it was important to have open, more seating available. We know there's always there's a big interest in our middle school project, so we'll have it at the high school in the auditorium at 6 p.m. And that will be televised.
Is that a public hearing on the middle school project or a public hearing on the proposed amendments to the charter?
That's true. It is the charter. Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
It's the, we've had so many public hearings on the middle school. It is the hearing on the 2 proposals to change the charter. Okay, so that'll be next Monday night. There's no school on the 10th. As you know, the city uses our buildings for voting. That's always been a little concern, leaving the buildings open for people to come in and out. So there will be no school that day. That will be a PD day for us, though, for our teachers. So, but students have the day off. The same week, Concord High School has their open house. The following week, the 16th, please note that those of you that are choosing to run for the office, the filing period closes at 4 PM on the 16th.
Just a question on that. I've seen conflicting times. I've seen 5 PM and I've seen 4 PM.
Well, it's here, so you put your papers here, so it's gotta be, it's 4 o'clock.
Okay.
We had scheduled a finance committee, but I think that meeting is going to be postponed because of everybody's schedules that day, so we'll get back to you on a new date for that. Following night, building committee meeting, regular building committee on the middle school project, here at 5:30. On the 18th is policy, and then you can see a number of open houses on the 19th. I bring your attention to the multicultural festival over at Keach Park on the 22nd. It's a great event. It's super. We'll have a table set up. I know that Jess is setting it up and getting us a table and permission and whatever else we have to do. And we'll have information there, and they'll have a table, and the board is always there to talk to the public, and folks from our office will join you, so it's a great event. Executive committee on the 23rd, followed by instructional on the 23rd, city and community on the 25th, and then the 26th is an open house for Millbrook. We put in the chamber meeting. I think Bridget put out a note to you today if you're interested in attending. We will, Ms. Walsh, myself, and Jack will present to the Chamber of Commerce on the state of the city schools. We did it last year. It was a great event. We got great feedback on it, so they invited us back. I suppose that's a good thing, right? And we'll present again this year on, we'll give them an update on our schools. October doesn't look quite so bad for you if you.
Yes.
Not yet.
And you start off with a board meeting on the 7th, first Monday of the month, building committee on the 10th, and no school on the 11th. That's a PD day. That's the NEA day where they have the statewide teacher workshop, and we work with NEA on that workshop day. Actually, NEA is going to use Concord High School this year, so we'll be doing it with the NEA. We're pleased to be able to do that. In prior years, I believe they were holding those events at Bow High School.
They've done it at V2.
They have, yep. And of course, after tonight's discussion, we'll be changing Indigenous Peoples' Day to Columbus Day on the 14th, and there's no school on that day. It's a long weekend for our students. I'm gonna look to see if we can make some changes on this. I have the instructional committee on the 16th, and we were wondering if we could move that to the 21st. Is that what we wanted to do, Jack, right? We talked about it. And then city and community over to the 30th.
Sure.
Okay?
That would be.
So you're gonna have instructional when? I'm sorry?
We'll have instructional on the 21st.
Okay, and finance on the 16th.
Finance on the 16th, and then move city and community to the 30th. I'll clean this up and you'll get it back out to you.
Thank you.
Are we okay with the dates?
Yeah.
Oh, the last.
The only one I have to go back in time here to September. So, as I mentioned, at the 29th, the night you approved your authorization for the bond, we will be getting the results back, and I need you to vote to accept those results. There'll be a recommendation. I'm assuming there's going to be more than one bid, at least I'm hoping. But they're asking that we accept them the week of the 16th, and what I was hoping for was the 18th, if that worked for everyone. It's a rather quick meeting, and they'll get the results. I'll send them out ahead of time and post ahead of time, but you just have to pick what they'll likely recommend, which will probably be the best terms and the cheapest interest rate. At least that's where I would go.
So the 18th of September?
If we can get everybody together.
And we do
Before-
it at 5 o'clock?
Because then we have communication.
Because then we
Yeah.
have policy right after it?
I have a bunch of calendar conflicts just from being out of state a bunch of times. So I'll be out of state the last week in September and the last week in October. So I said the 30th was fine, but I won't be there.
The 30th of October?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perhaps more importantly, the 28th.
Yeah.
28th is critical because you're voting on the final number for
We
the
need
budget.
7 out of 9, right?
Yeah.
I'll double check on my flights for that week and I'll let you know for sure. But as far as the city and community on the 30th and city and community relations on the 25th of September, I will not be here.
I participated in a school board meeting that had a vote from the backseat of a car driving through New Jersey one Monday, so.
You can do a remote.
I mean, I'm
If
happy,
We can
if it
request a remote.
conflicts, I'll totally be on the phone, that's fine, if that's
We can
allowed.
do that. We can do that
Okay,
For the
cool.
28th.
for the 28th.
28th of October,
But
yeah.
you're not here on the 25th of September or the 30th of October.
Correct.
So neither of those city and community meetings
Will work. I apologize for the conflict.
So can I give you a call tomorrow and we can see?
We'll
if we
work
can
it out
set
tomorrow, that
All
sounds
right.
good to me,
All
yeah,
right.
instead of spending the time here, everyone. We'll make it
All
work.
right, what I'd like to do, since there were changes on this, as you can see, I will send you out new calendars.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks
Right.
very much,
You
appreciate
can
that.
put them on your refrigerator.
So we're good for the 18th, just to go back to the
Yes,
stuff?
I would say so, yeah. Unless, I mean,
Just let me know where to be.
are there more of us here for building committee the day prior? So fewer of us have.
We were trying to figure that out.
Either way, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of us here on 17th and the 18th, so you let us know.
Yeah.
If either of those days work, then I'll work through it.
Yeah, the building committee only has 2 people, really. It's
Does it?
Bob and, Bob and.
We all
and-
just show up just to be nosy.
Well, you do, that's
Yeah.
true. You do.
I love you. I know, right? I'm like, am I on the committee? I don't know.
No, but.
I always go.
I know, I always go.
It's, Bob Cotton and Pam Walsh are on
okay.
that committee.
So the 18th makes more sense.
Yeah, 18th makes more sense. Great.
Okay.
I just have a quick question about the bonds for Jack. If the Fed does cut the rates on the 18th, are we locking any type of rate when we approve that week, or is
It
it
would be
just-
locked in, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
What's weird timing, right? It's like we'll probably find out that day. So.
Yeah, and you had 15 to 60 days from when the time it was approved in July.
Yeah.
So then that starts another sequence. So if we miss that window, we start
We're
the
done.
cycle again.
No, we're talking
So,
quarter
and
percent, so nope.
I'm looking at a $700,000
Yeah.
discount, so I
Yeah.
think that'll outweigh some things. So-
Trust you.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you.
And we'll see what our bond premium is, so
Perfect. Thank you.
they'll let us know.
By voting?
A lot. Oh, I see what you're doing. I see what you're saying.
Just want to know how much we were saving.
All right, so, not seeing, are there any other changes to the calendar?
No,
No.
like I said, I'm gonna
That's
send you out
plenty.
new ones.
Yeah, that's more than enough changes.
Like herding wild cats.
Too
No, you
cool.
just say if anyone-
Love it.
Yeah, because we have.
They don't wanna go
We have
in.
like 15 minutes left, I think.
Is there any further public comment this time? Not seeing any, will we be going into a non-public this afternoon?
No.
What?
I know. Then I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Not available.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? No, the meeting is adjourned.
Kathleen, you're thinking